This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
The guy who was, right? Don't you think the guy who was killed would want justice to be done to the murderer? The answer is, he may want it, but at the end of the day, you're disgracing his body, and it's not up to you to forego it. The body does not belong to you, right? It's not yours. You're not the Baal of you're not the owner of the body. God gave it to you, and there's certain rules and regulations. You can't cause a disgrace to the body.
Like you can't put a tattoo on it also.
Okay, right. You can't. There's many things you can't do because it's not a cover to the body. Again, so the Gemara asks.
What if it's not a disgrace to the body? What if you're going to be honoring the body as a result of an autopsy to find out that he didn't die from natural causes? Maybe somebody killed him.
We'll have to see. And we don't allow it unless the government enforces it. We don't allow it. Okay? So the Gemara seems to be saying, maybe the reason why we kill the murderer is because we check the mace. And then the Gemara asks, okay, very nice, you're being menavel the mace. But maybe we need to be menavel the mace to save the life of the murderer. Right. And the Gemara says, no, because even an autopsy would not save his life. You know why? Because maybe you're going to end up cutting him up, and there's going to be a mum in the place where you're cutting, and you won't be able to know whether there's a mum or there's not a mum anyway. And therefore, you're not going to be saving anyone's life. And it must be, why do we kill the murderer? It's because we follow the Raiv. It's a Raya we follow Raiv. And this, the Gemara in Chulin, is one of the Rayas in Shas that an autopsy is prohibited. Another Raya, it's not on the sheet, the Gemara in Bava Basra, on Kuf Nun Dalet, talks about a case where somebody yarshened a piece of land, and then he sold it. And there's a claim by the original owners of the land that this kid sold the land as a minor. He wasn't a gadol. He was less than 13 years old. And then the kid died. And now the question is, how do we know how old the kid was when he sold the land? So the Gemara says, let's do a bedika. Let's check if he has 2 hairs or not. The Gemara says you can't do a bedika. It's nivel hames. Wow. Just a bedika alone. It's a nivel hames. The seya.
It's outside. You don't do anything.
That's what the Gemara says.
It's outside.
Just to take him out of the grave is nivel.
That's what the Gemara says is a nivel. That's another raya. The Gemara uses a lashon. It's nivel. So from here again we see you can't cause a disgrace to a dead body. Okay. But here's the question that's a very contemporary issue, and that is, in every medical school in the world, all they're busy doing is cutting up dead bodies, right? That's how the students you're not going to learn anything if you don't have first-hand experience. And perhaps you could make the claim that if you don't perform an autopsy, it's going to be a problem because pikuach nefashos. This way you're able to study the heart. You'll be able to study what the heart looks like. You'll be able to study how to do different types of surgeries. Bypass. You want to know what the liver looks like. You want to know what the spleen looks like. You want to know what the kidneys look like. You got to cut open the bodies. And perhaps the heter is pikuach nefashos. After all, even though cutting up a dead body would constitute nivel hames, which is an isser, according to the Gemara, nevertheless, v'chai bohem, all averos are suspended b'makam pikuach nefashos. Maybe for the sake of gaining medical information, it's permitted to conduct an autopsy.
Is evil?
Well, you want to know medical information to be able to save someone else's life.
There's no imminent danger of life there.
Okay.
Maybe other things would
Is it possible to make an autopsy from a Yid to make autopsy on a goy, on a Gentile?
So whether you're allowed to make an autopsy on a guy is a separate share. Now we're talking about, are you allowed to make an autopsy on a Jew?
You're talking about learning the different parts of the body. You do it on a goy, do it on a Gentile.
They
don't
discriminate. They take whatever.
Or here, what?
There's no question.
Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe we'll have to discuss about that next.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have.
Today we're discussing about autopsies on Yidden. And, well, let's say for instance, a classic case would be like this. You have somebody Nevach, he passed away because of a certain disease, and you want to conduct an autopsy to save a different person's life. Either, let's in general. You want to gain medical information to know how to treat these type of patients. You don't have any in front of you right now, but inevitably you will. And let's say a doctor, he conducts a surgery and he messed up. So he wants to know, where did he go wrong so he doesn't do it the next time? Is that biklach nefashos? We would think, yeah. Right? Because if he does the same type of incision next time, he's going to kill the next guy also. So that's the question. The question is one allowed to conduct an autopsy on a Jew for the sake of saving lives in the future?
Or, someone passes from a disease, and they want to figure out if really that was a disease, so everyone would be vaccinated,
Okay, you want to know cause of death. To save life in the future. So this was a famous question that was presented to the Noid of Yehuda. In Madura Tinyana Simon Reish Yud, the Noid of Yehuda got a hold of a certain question that first made its way to London. Let's take a look at number 15. Imutter lenateach guf hameis kedei lehislamed. Is it permitted to cut up the body of a dead person for the sake of learning? Says the Noid of Yehuda. Al davar kontresa, regarding this booklet, Asher Shalach Elai, that you sent to me, Asher Herich Maracha, that you wrote a lengthy composition, Benidon Hashela, regarding the question Shabbat Elav Mikahal Kahadosh, London. That the question came from a congregation in London. B'masa she'ira sham be'echad shechala b'choli ha'even b'kisai. Kidney stones, some kind of stones, right? Some kind of gold stone, a stone. Okay? The haroifim chadchul kedarkam, the doctors, naturally, they take the knife, let's get right to it. B'maka kazu, v'loy also loy trufa omes. Didn't work. Surgery was unsuccessful. The guy didn't survive the surgery. The nishalu sham chachmei oyer. And the chacham of the city were asked, Imutter lachtich beguf hames. Can we go into this dead person's body, cut in that area? We want to get to the bottom. What exactly, what kind of stones did this guy have? Where did the surgery go wrong? What kind of mistakes did they make? So the doctors should know in the future not to do this thing again, not to do this type of surgery again. So they know what to do. That they should learn for the future not to cut so much or where to cut. Do we say, no, this is prohibited? It's a disgrace to the dead person's body. Or do we say, no, even though you're right, it is nivel hames, nevertheless, maybe it's permitted for the greater cause of to be careful in the greatest possible way. And one of the Rabbanim in London, they wanted to permit this, and they said, Nivel Hames is permitted if you're doing it as a kavod for the person you're cutting up. And the raya is from Yaakov Avinu, who we learned last week. They embalmed Yaakov Avinu. The embalming process involves cutting up the body, making incisions in the body. Nevertheless, it was permitted. Why? Out of a kavod to Yaakov Avinu, they wanted to preserve the body. So we see that in an instance where cutting up the body is a kavod to the body, it's permitted. So perhaps it's also a kavod to the body if this person is giving over his body to medical science. Maybe it's not a nivel hames. Even though you're cutting up the body, this person is providing knowledge for the medical field of how to perform a surgery, how to deal with particular sicknesses or particular diseases. Maybe it's permitted. Okay. According to the Zohar and according to Rabbeinu Bechaye, it was spices. But if you remember the Abar Benel and the Shas Tshuvas Harashba and the Tosfos Yom Tif, right? They learned that Pshuta Kimashmai, they cut up Yaakov Avinu and it was permitted. It was permitted. According to the Chumash that's exactly what Abar Benel said, because they removed his vital organs with the embalming process, right? So then,
that was before Kabbalah.
That's what the Maritz Chia said in Siman Vav. Very good. That's the Paiskim say you can't learn from Kaidem Matan Torah, but nevertheless, this questioner, this Shoyel, he is presenting to the Noda B'Yehuda that perhaps it should be permitted, and we'll learn it out from Yaakov Avinu. Okay. So says the Noda B'Yehuda. Look at the next paragraph. Avalani Tama. I wonder, and this Noda B'Yehuda sets forth a tremendous yesod in Pikuach Nefashos. What is Pikuach Nefashos? Is Pikuach Nefashos, I'm allowed to do anything that can save a life? No. No, that's not Pikuach Nefashos. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, Halo yimzeh yikra afilu safek atzos nefashos. I wonder if this is even considered a suffix Pikuach Nefashos. Because imkein lama lachem kala pilpul, what do you need all of this pilpul for? V'haloi zehu din aruch u'mefurash sha'afilu safek doicha Shabbos hachamura. If this would be considered even suffix Pikuach Nefashos, it would push away Shabbos. V'chol safek nefashos doicha Shabbos. V'loi safek Shabbos u'el afilu safek Shabbos acheres. Even not this Shabbos, even a future Shabbos in 10 years from now, safek Pikuach Nefashos is doicha, even a suffix Shabbos. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, and this is a tremendous yesod. V'amnam kol zeh b'yesh safek sakanas nefashos lifanenu. What is considered Pikuach Nefashos? That's if you have a sakana in front of you. Kagain chayla, you have someone who's sick in front of you. Or nefilas gal, or someone who a building collapsed on him. V'chein b'mseches chulin sham gali roitzeach hapikuach nefesh lifanenu. V'chein afilu inyan mamon and baba basra hahezek lefanenu. Aval b'nidon didan, in our situation where you want to perform an autopsy, you want to discover where the doctors went wrong. So to know in a year from now when the doctors have to do the same type of surgery, they shouldn't kill the guy, that is not called Pikuach Nefashos, because the person who's in danger is not in front of you.
But the letter never considered it Pikuach Nefashos. The letter the printer's only says that the doctors are going to learn from it. It never mentions.
Okay, but
Nefesh is a grounds for permitting it. Only
one second.
Permitted on the grounds of
1 second. So, he's saying it's not even considered a halachic toelas. There's no sick person here. They just want to learn this chachma. Perhaps you'll find a sick person similar to this, and you'll be able to learn from this. It is certain we do not push off because of this slight possible benefit that maybe we'll learn from this. Shum Isser Torah, Ayafilu Isser Drabanan. Even in Isser Drabanan, we're not going to push off because maybe in the future we'll be able to save lives. Which means, if you want to conduct research about a certain disease, perhaps you'll be able to save thousands of lives. But right now it involves an Isser Drabanan. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, you can't do it. What do you mean? You'll definitely save lives in the future. That's not Pikuach Nefashos.
What is it?
Has to be with the name.
What is it?
Yeah, what is
it's research.
Pikuach Nefashos for the future.
The concept of Pikuach Nefashos doesn't apply to the future. The concept of Pikuach Nefashos is, if someone is in danger right now, you do what it takes to save them.
What does it mean when Hashem proceeds Makkah to the Trufa to the Makkah?
That's if Hashem.
This is exactly it.
That's if Hashem gives it to you. That's if Hashem gives it to you. But for you, you're allowed to do, or Jews are allowed to do research to come up with information to save people in the future. But that's not Pikuach Nefashos. It's not Halacha Pikuach Nefashos. Yeah. Oh, okay. So now you're saying good. Very good. So now we're going to get to that.
But we had the exact same scenario. There was a family in our community. They had 3 sons.
Yeah.
The first son got to a certain age. Somehow his health disintegrated and he passed away. The second son, as he got to the same age, same thing happened. They were both married and everything. They just got to that age and passed away. And now there was a third son. So the question was to embalm this second son to find out if there's a disease in the family that they can prevent for the third son. And the Rabbanim did not allow.
That's exactly what we're saying. Exactly.
They said you can take pieces out, you cut little pieces out to do research, but you cannot do complete embalming.
No, autopsy. You mean autopsy?
Okay, so
Tissue samples, I guess.
Yeah, but it's a question. Let's say it says a mishpacha has a certain disease. There was a mishpacha that you couldn't mark them because they would bleed to death.
right.
So the question is, aren't you allowed to go and find out how you can stop it? And
Yeah, as long as it doesn't involve, as long as it's not involving an Issa D'Oraisa or even an Issa D'Rabbanan. But if it involves an Issa D'Rabbanan, you can't.
So how can you do research then?
What do you mean, an autopsy?
How can you do research?
What type of research?
Medical's research.
These Arabs.
You're doing cell splice, what are you doing?
Arabs. That's good research material.
Whether you're allowed to do an autopsy on a guy depends on
Say a guy, how can
the pasuk like Saleh Nivlasai Alav. The Torah says Ki Killas Eleikim Talai, right? And Rashi brings down. Maybe we'll save it. Maybe we'll do it next week or something. But the question is, Rashi gives a certain mashal, and the question is whether that mashal applies to only Jews or to Goyim also.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
There potentially,
It applies to Goyim.
according to the Ramban, it may also apply to Goyim. But let's leave that alone for now. Today we're talking about Jews. Nivel Hames.
We hold by no the Yehuda and this Mahazah.
Do you hold like this, Najuda? Yes. Yes. We'll see. There are cases where an autopsy may be permitted in limited circumstances. Let's get the Yesod first. The Yesod is saving a life in the future is not pikuach nefashos. It's not halacha. It's a worthy thing. It's a very noble thing, but it's not it doesn't halachically permit any averos.
So I didn't go through medical school. That is why you have a medical school.
I don't know that they're cutting up Jewish bodies.
Well, cutting of bodies.
Okay, so we'll have to see if it applies to Goyim.
Cows.
They don't use Jewish bodies.
Let's see if it applies. We'll see. We'll have to see if it applies to
Jewish
Goyim.
bodies are expensive, yeah.
Okay.
Jewish body is a problem with Tumah. Goyim don't have problem with Tumah.
If you're a Kohen, you mean?
No, yeah.
You're Kohen.
Can't be a medical school.
Yeah, a Kohen is
It's a hard
okay.
What medical school did Rambam go to?
Just thought I put in my 2 cents.
The Rambam.
Yeah, how did he train?
I don't know if they do it.
I don't know.
He wasn't a Kohen.
We had to
We have to see. So again, so far what the Noda B'Yehuda is saying is, and we'll see in Rav Moshe Feinstein, he goes even further. Okay, this is a little bit of a hard concept to digest. What do you mean it's not pikuach nefashos? If I cut up this body, I could save thousands of people in the future. It's not pikuach nefashos. Why not? Just hashkafically, it's not, because your job is not to save the world. Your job is to keep the Torah. Keep the Torah. The Torah is, if someone is in danger right now, the Torah is in danger right now. The Halacha says I have to do what it takes to save him. But somebody will be in the danger in the future. It's not my responsibility.
But what about the Chai B'hem?
But exactly, v'chai b'hem is somebody right now. Bifanenu. Like in law, there's a concept of a clear and present danger. But if it's not in front of you, that's not considered a danger, even in the legal system. But certainly in halacha, according to Noda B'Yehuda, even
If you know next week is going to be at the Pikuach Nefesh on Shabbos. Next Shabbos is going to be Pikuach Nefesh. Are you allowed to be over this Shabbos because you know it in advance?
what do you mean by that?
Like, for example, you know next week something. I can't think of a dogma right now.
Let's say like this: somebody has a disease right now
Yeah.
that in a week he'll be.
Pikuach Nefesh.
Yeah, but that's because the person is here right now, and the situation that he's in is a situation that you see right now is going to be dangerous.
That's Pikuach Nefesh. That's already maybe it's already not Pikuach Nefesh. I'm talking about a case you know that nothing no Pikuach Nefesh now. There's going to be a
Feel like
Pikuach
this.
Nefesh. So you're not allowed to do it.
There's a disease. Let's say there's a disease in the world right now.
Yeah.
That by doing research on something, you'll be able to cure that disease.
Right.
According to Noda B'Yehuda, no.
Can't do it. Yeah.
Can't do it.
For example, you know there's the flu, the Asian flu. The Asian flu there was.
Yeah.
And you know that they're predicting that next week it's going to be in the United States.
Again, the Noda B'Yehuda just says the patient's not in front of you.
Right, yeah, exactly.
We'll see in Rav Moshe even further again.
Kula lechumra.
Let's go on. Let's go.
L'chumra. But we'll see. Let's see. Okay. Shematakum. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, Aval b'nidon didon ein kan shum chayla atzachzeh. Right now, there's no chayla that needs this. Rak sheroitzim lumad chachma zu ulai yizdamin chayla shiyatzachzeh. You want to learn this chachma because maybe another chayla will need this. Vadai d'leidachina mishum chshasha kala zu shum iser Torah afilas rabbanan. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, I'll bring you a raya. You know what the raya is? Are you allowed to make medicine on Shabbos?
No.
No?
שוחק סממנים.
What is it?
שוחק סממנים.
Why can't you make medicine? Maybe someone will need it. Maybe somebody will be deathly ill and will need it.
No, you can do it על ידי גוי.
But one second. If somebody is sick right now, somebody is deathly ill, am I allowed to make medicine from him?
Is the right or no? Is the Rabbanan? Yes. If it's the Rabbanan, you can do it. The
If there's
Rabbanan.
a sick person in front of you who's deathly ill, are you allowed to grind medicine?
יש בו סכנה או אין בו
Ask the Na'id
סכנה?
Yehuda, yesh by sakana. Yesh. Yeah.
You're allowed to do.
So then,
the writer.
says the Na'id Yehuda, then I should always be allowed to make medicine. You know why? Because maybe there'll be a sick person.
Maybe it's not
The answer is, but if the sick person not in front of you, just because maybe, or even Vada, you know in this city, every single Shabbos there are people with this thing. But right now there's nobody like that. You can't grind the medicine, because maybe someone will be sick. In Halacha, there's no concept of maybe, because it has to be Lefanenu. Right? Imkain, says in the Yehuda, if you're going to call this chashash safek nefashos, imkain yia kol malachas harafuos, then all aspects of healing, schikas, right, grinding the medicine, or bishul samanim, cooking the spices, v'achanas kliyizem l'hakaza, or preparing the surgical knife, moter b'Shabbos. Shema yizdam hayoy ma'belay l'chol l'shiyot tzarich l'zeh. So skip 2 lines. L'chalila lahater davar zeh chas v'shalom to matter this. Va'afilu roifei ha'umayis ein anoisen nisayan b'chachmat hanituach ayidei shomeis. Kiyim b'harugim al pi mishpat. Look what the Na'id Yehuda says. Look how times have changed. Even the goyim don't have the chutzpah to cut up a dead body. They recognize a dead body has kedusha, and even goyim don't cut up dead bodies unless it's some criminal that was murdered based on the government. You hear? But nowadays in the hospitals they cut people up like they're a piece of steak, right? And the Na'id Yehuda says in his times, even the goyim wouldn't do that unless the guy's a murderer. He's a criminal. Someone who gave permission. Says the Na'id Yehuda, if we're going to be lenient, they're going to start cutting people up like they'd be a piece of chicken. So this is something we have to take a strong stance against, says the Na'id Yehuda. Even in a situation where by learning about the body we'll be able to save lives in the future, it doesn't matter. The sakana is not in front of you.
So, Lamase, if a Hatzalah ambulance has a flat on Shabbos, you have to leave it that way. You're not allowed to fix it.
If it's
Maybe.
the only car,
There's no-
if it's the only car in town, then you have to.
No, it's the only ambulance, but there's no mace. There are other ambulances,
But you
there
can
are other
ask a guy,
services.
you can ask a guy.
You pass by outside ambulance.
Yeah, while they're coming back from the hospital, they should stay
You can
there.
ask people later.
Shouldn't come back with the hospital.
There's a different reason they're
Wow,
allowed.
but you say you cannot prevent that
You're
somebody
right.
will get sick.
You want to hear
It's a
about
good
Hatzalah? You want to hear about Hatzalah? We'll see what Rav Moshe says.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, that's a famous truth. That's all, yeah.
Okay? But this is the principle that we're learning from the Na'id Yehuda, is that learning information for the sake of saving a life in the future, if that situation is not in front of you, is not called pikuach nefashos. Just because it probably will happen or it might happen, that is not good enough to allow us to perform an autopsy, which is an isser. Says the Chassam Sofer, quoting the Na'id Yehuda, let's think very carefully about what the Na'id Yehuda said. The Na'id Yehuda said, you can perform an autopsy for the sake of learning information to save someone's life maybe in the future. But what if you have 2 guys in the operating table? That's what you mentioned before. Remind me your name. Avi. What if you have 2 guys in the operating table? You operated on guy 1 and he didn't make it. And now the surgeons are saying, let's go to guy 2. And the other guy says, maybe we should first check out what we did wrong with the first guy.
Wow.
Says the Chassam Sofer, according to Na'id Yehuda, it should be permitted. Because here we have a situation where the sakana is right in front of you. If the only reason the Na'id Yehuda did not allow it is because it's only maybe something in the future, what about if it's not a maybe in the future? What if it's right in front of your face? Then it should be permitted. Says the Chassam Sofer, if you want to look in number 16, 2 lines from the end, the Chassam Sofer raises another issue. And that is, why is the Na'id Yehuda getting involved, whether this is pikuach nefashos or not? There's another isser of learning from an autopsy, and that is there's an isser dairaisa to get hana from a dead body.
Wow.
It's isser hana. Isser dairaisa.
Well, no. What kind of hana did they get?
Knowledge.
It's not bad for hana.
Sure as I know.
You're learning.
They got
You know how to use it.
They got many for
To
this.
save somebody else's life. This is hana.
Yeah.
He's dying. He needs a rapport. You're going to say, well, because he wasn't here when that guy died, then I'm not going to touch him.
To medical technology, it is.
I have a question. You're allowed to take out a guy has a gold tooth, or a guy has you're allowed to get hana from a dead body? No.
That's
Allowed to cut his hair to make a wig? No. It's Isser Daraisa. So how are you allowed to make a cut to use his body for anything? You're you're deriving a benefit. If you'd have to go on the black market to buy it, it would cost a lot of money. So you're getting hana. Says Achsam Sofer, it's true you're not allowed to get hana. But to save lives, it would be permitted. That's why the Noda B'Yehuda has to say this is not considered saving a life. But if it would be considered saving a life, then it would be permitted A, to violate nivel hames, and B, the Isra Hana of a mace. That's why the Noda B'Yehuda has to say it's not considered pikuach nefashos. But says Achsam Sofer 2 lines from the end, Ulefizeh, Ihaya lefanenu chayla sheyesh lai maka kayotzaba. You have 2 guys, the same sickness. The surgeons tried on the first guy, and they, didn't go. So to do an autopsy on the first guy to see what went wrong, for roitzim l'natech hameis halaz l'rapoisa shazeh, karov levadai demoter. Chassam Sofer says, I'm almost positive it would be permitted. To learn information for the future, for the sake of the medical field, prohibited. To do an autopsy for the sake of someone sitting right in front of you,
What uses Lashon Korov Levada?
it's not 100%, 99%.
It's not
99%.
It's not clear.
Karev levadai.
So are you allowed to separate these two?
99.99.
I would also say
Yeah, because you're saving a life. The question is, are you killing one of them? That's a whole another area also that it's interesting to look into.
if you follow the note of
B'Yehuda, yeah.
the Yehuda to the extreme,
Yeah.
I would never go to a Jewish doctor.
Why?
They won't have any education.
Why? But they could rely on the autopsies performed by somebody else.
No, they wouldn't be able to go to medical school.
Okay. Yeah.
Some Sofer does is, let's say they came in together. Let's say they both ate at the same meal. Now, some Sofer is saying that, it might be chilek.
I mean, it's hard to know that they have the same exact problem, and
It's like that. If they maybe he's saying he's not 100% sure.
Yeah.
He's saying that there happens to be 2 people lying next to each other. Maybe there's even a chilek if they can. Let's say they both ate at the same meal.
Right.
They both have the same symptoms. So maybe there might be more of a heter in the thing. He's saying
the more right, since the whole isser is because it's not a clear and present danger. So the more obvious and the more in front of you the situation is.
Because they ate the same thing, whatever it was, maybe it's more of a.
I hear. Comes along the Binyan Sion. Binyan Sion was written by the Aruch Laner of Yaakov Ettlinger, one of the Gedolei HaPoskim, and he argues on the Chassam Sofer, and he says, even with 2 bodies sitting in front of you, and the surgeons messed up on body number 1, and now they want to go in and discover where they went wrong to save the other guy's life, you're not allowed to. Even in the case of the Chassam Sofer.
Because you make cut where is the...
Why? Listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this. Look at number 18 for a moment. The Gemara in Baba Kama Daf Samach Amud Beis talks about David HaMelech, and he wanted to do a specialized mission. There were some Philistines hiding out in a barley field, and the barley belonged to Jews. So knocking off these Philistines would mean destroying somebody else's barley. And he asked the Shaila, am I allowed to do that? Basically, I'm stealing money from other people for the sake of saving lives. Clear and present danger. And the Gemara, and it was told to David HaMelech, he's not allowed to. Says the Gemara, v'kami ba'ilei, and David HaMelech had the following question: Mahu lahatzel atzman b'mamed chaverai. Am I allowed to save myself with my friend's money? In other words, like this: somebody's chasing after you with a gun. You want to jump into someone else's car and drive away. So you're stealing his gas. Are you allowed to steal money to save your life? No. What? No? I thought there are only 3 averos you're allowed to do to save your life. Avodah Zarah, Gili Arayis, Shvichas Damim. Says the Gemara in Bava Kama, in Yeshiva they forgot to tell you about a 4th. You're not allowed to steal to save your life. You ever hear that before? No. Says the Gemara in Bava Kama, you can't steal to save a life. Shalchulei, they sent David HaMelech, Asur lahatzel atzma b'mamen chaveroi. But you're a different David HaMelech, you're a king, you could do whatever you want.
It's not oinus. It's not oinus. Why is it stealing?
It's not an oinus. Just like you're not okay. So there's a major machlokes rishonim. What in the world does this Gemara mean? Asur lahatzel atzmai b'mamen chaveroi. According to the Binyan Sion and many tshuvas, the opinion of Rashi means pshutai kemashmai. I see my friend's car. I'm going to use his gas to ride away. I'm going to pay him for the gas. You're not allowed to do that. Right? Am I allowed to steal something from you and then pay you back? No. Right? Just in a regular case. Am I allowed to go into your house, use your telephone, call long distance, and then I'll pay you $3 for it? Am I allowed to do that? Of course not.
Why?
Stealing. You stole and then you paid back. You're not allowed to steal and then pay back. According to Rashi, you're not allowed to steal money to save your life. The Gemara says there are only 3 averos that you're not allowed to do. Avodah Zarah. Says Ramban, according to this, there's a 4th. And the Ramban has a brisa that says there are 4 averos that you're not allowed to do to save your life. Rashi, Shita, and Shas, you're not allowed to steal money to save your life. This is a shock to me, but that's Rashi Shita.
It's a Atzalat Nefashot, this.
Doesn't matter.
Like one of the 3 is Atzalat Nefashot, no?
Yeah, you're allowed to violate any avera to save a life, except for Avodah Zarah, Gili Arayis, and Shvichas Damim. And according to Rashi, stealing. That's Rashi Shita. According to that, says the Binyan Sion, if you're not allowed to take your friend's money to save a life, you're certainly not allowed to cause him disgrace to save a life. So an autopsy, to save lives, even if the life is in front of you, this guy's dying, he's dying, right in front of you. And if you do an autopsy on body A, you'll be able to save body B's life. The same way you can't take away A's money to save B's life, you can't take away A's kavod to save B's life. And according to Rashi, says the Binyan Sion, just like you wouldn't be able to steal from A to save B's life, you can't do an autopsy on A to save B's life, because an autopsy is more of a disgrace than taking his money. Taking his covet is worse than taking his money.
What about if he's mochel on his money? He can give he say at night before this that I will mochel on the money for emergency situations.
You want to know, what if he gives reshus?
Yeah, let's say I leave my house every morning and I say to myself, for any kind of emergency, for any Jew happen, I mochel on my money if it's up to certain amount of money.
You could do that. You could do so.
So then what will happen?
You want to know, could you be... So then...
I said no. No problem. There should be no problem.
1 second. 1 second.
My car is over here. If anybody that's running away from a bullet, you can take my car.
So 1 second. One more thing. Let's add one thing. That's Rashi's opinion. Rashi's opinion is you can steal to save a life. But we don't hold like Rashi. We hold like Tosfos. Now, but still, the Gemara says, "Asur lahatzel atzma b'mamen chaveroi." What does that mean? You're not allowed to save yourself with your friend's money. Says Tosfos. You know what that means? You're not allowed to save yourself with your friend's money if you don't plan on paying back. If you're going to jump into his car to save your life, and you don't plan on compensating your friend for the gas, you're not allowed to do it. But if you plan on paying back, you're allowed to do it. In other words, let's say someone's at gunpoint, he wants to steal money to bribe the gunman. According to Tosfos, you could steal the money if you plan on paying back. If you don't plan on paying back, you can't steal the money, and you're not even steal the money to save your life. Says the Binyan Sion. That means even according to Tosfos, you can't perform the autopsy to save the guy's life in front of you. You know why? Because this is something you can never pay the guy back for. This is like stealing with the intention of not paying back. And therefore, even for a person in danger in front of you, says the Binyan Sion, you cannot perform the autopsy. Wow. Halacha l'maisa, he argues on the Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer says the only reason the Noda B'Yehuda does not allow an autopsy is because maybe saving a life in the future does not constitute halacha pikuach nefashos. But if it's in front of you, then it would be permitted. Says the Binyan Sion, even then it's prohibited. You know why? Just like you're not allowed to steal money with the intention of not paying back to save a life, you certainly cannot perform an autopsy because his disgrace is something that cannot be repaid. Let's see this inside. Look in number 17. First, let's see the Shaila Nishalti. Choyla echad nechle. And if you thought this was hard to comprehend, we're just getting started. Okay, look at the Binyan Sion. Binyan Sion says like Nishalti choyla echad nichla b'choyle nifla. A sick person was sick with a strange disease. Va'asko haroifim b'refuasai l'lai hal. The doctors were involved in trying to heal him without any success. Kimeis b'choyai v'yesham oid choyle shenechla b'choyle kazeh. There's another sick person with the same sickness. V'ratzu haroifim liftayach es hameis. And the doctors wanted to open up the dead body. Lirois inyan achoyle l'man mitzayt shrufa lasher oid b'chayim, to try to find some kind of remedy for the guy who's alive. Imuter lasas came lenavel hameis aloi. Can you do so to disgrace the body or not?
When was it? How long ago?
The Aruch Laner.
When he used to live? How many years ago?
Not so long ago.
150 years ago. That's some safer.
It's in time of I believe the 19th century.
1800s, yeah.
The 19th century.
Yeah. Look what he writes. Achein.
There's a relative of his living in the neighborhood.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mamash ben Achaben.
Look at Achein.
Oh, he said the date here. Tesh Tafrishun Bet.
So that's 1852.
Yeah.
Okay? Achein lefiani is daiti. Ein adavar kain. Says the Aruch Laner, even in a situation where the person is a chayla in front of you, you're not allowed to do it. Uvetchila ashva rayas hamater. First I'm going to address the rayas of the mater. Now look what he says. Look on the next page. Rak da'adayin yesh ladan b'zeh. Sha'arei klal gada b'Torah. There is a great principle in the Torah. De'ein lecha davar oimei b'fnei pikuach nefesh. That nothing stands in the way of saving a life. Ve'ein chiluk bein vaday l'safek pikuach nefesh. And it doesn't matter if it's vaday saving a life or only suffix saving a life. Aval nirlani daiti, says the Aruch Laner, even if you want to try to apply pikuach nefashos, you cannot apply it to this case. Degam mitam zeh ein lahater kan. Why? I already proved in a different place. Shedas Rashi, that the opinion of Rashi, al pi Gemara de Baba Kama damrinon sham asur lahatzel atzma b'mamain chavera. The Gemara says you're not allowed to save yourself with your friend's money. She asur laadam ligzal mamain chavera leman hatzel atzma memisa. You're not allowed to steal your friend's money even to save yourself from death, even if you're going to pay back, according to Rashi. Tosfos and the Rosh say that you're allowed to steal the money as long as you're going to pay back. But not that you're not allowed to do it in the first instance. But according to Rashi, like this: if you're not allowed to steal money to save your life, you're certainly not allowed to cause your friend embarrassment to save a life. According to Rashi, if you're not allowed to save yourself with your friend's money, certainly it will be prohibited to embarrass your friend. Because his honor is more important to him than his money. If you can't take his money to save your life, you can't embarrass him to save your life.
You know why you can't steal to save your life?
Why?
Because it may not work. Then you won't have a chance to pay him back.
What do you mean? Even if let's say you're a millionaire, you're going to pay him back tomorrow.
If he gets killed.
Actually, he's saying good
If
svara.
what?
If he doesn't save himself, if he gets
Oh.
killed.
Yeah, good svara, actually. It's good svara. I think it's
But-
good svara.
No,
For Rashi.
no, because you're allowed to do other averos. You're allowed to wear shandis to save your life, even though it might not save
Yeah,
your
but
life.
there's no chesaron to the chaver. This is a privilege.
Oh, you're saying a svara? Why
It's
you?
svara. It's a good svara. Yeah.
Because you might not be able to pay back.
Yeah.
No, because he's dead.
Not a bad svara because he's not going to die. It's not going to work. Right? Yeah.
Right, there's chiv on the earth. I don't know. Okay, maybe. Maybe.
So according to Rashi,
According to Rashi,
I
yeah.
remember it was a Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit that it said, עדיף לו לאדם לזרוק את עצמו לכיף שנה שלא להדביר את בני חברו ברבים. So this he went into the fire of the baker over there. How come he used the fire just to save his life, not to embarrass the other?
What should he have done?
According to Rashi. He used his fire
Right.
to save himself from not to embarrass others. So
Right, he jumped into the fire, right.
Using the baker fire.
Who says it wasn't his own fire?
No, he was passing by and he was a bakery there.
His wife was running from
Yes,
two men.
and he was a bakery there and he jumped into the fire.
No, they stood on something very hard.
No, he jumped into the fire. עדיף לו לזרוק... No, I'm just asking the סברה, I don't know. How come he used the fire of the baker to save his life? He didn't embarrass the charity. He was giving the charity and he catched them.
He didn't want to embarrass his friend, so he jumped into the fire.
But he saved his life. He didn't want to embarrass them.
No.
He did the right things.
The fire didn't affect him. It affected his wife. Wasn't hurt at all. He was singed. So he wanted to find out why. That's the Gemara. But the fire doesn't do it. The fire doesn't. There's no damage.
There's
The fire's still there.
Okay.
He's saying, you mean he's causing the guy loss? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Not causing it.
Now look at 2 lines down. Achein. So, but he's going to say, not only according to Rashi that you're not allowed to steal money to save your friend's life, but even according to the sheet of Tosfos, Achein loy bilvad l'shitas Rashi ner the aser. Not only is it aser to perform the autopsy according to Rashi, elagam l'shitas Tosfos v'Rosh the pasku ator v'shulchan aruch b'chosh mishpat ner shadin kain. It would appear that this is the same din. And he goes on to say that the reason why Tosfos and the Rosh say you're allowed to steal money to save your life is only because you're going to pay back. But disgracing your friend is something that's le'nitein le'hishav and you can't pay back for. Rules, the binyan siyan, halacha l'maisa, an autopsy is prohibited under all circumstances. It doesn't matter if you have a clear and present danger. What does Rav Moshe say? Now take a look at this. Rav Moshe wants to know, let's say a guy is dying.
Yeah.
And you could go to medical school for a year and learn how to save him. Are you obligated to do that?
You already have doctors. It doesn't have to be.
No, there are no other doctors.
It's a disease nobody wants to touch.
Are you obligated or are you allowed to?
Both. Let's talk about obligated. Is there a mitzvah to learn the information to be able to save? No. Why? Rav Moshe says it's like this. What if you have a guy, let's say Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. What did Rav Shimon Bar Yochai do for a living? He was learning, right? Torah sayum nasei. Was he able to give tzedakah? You don't have money, you can't give tzedakah. Is Rav Shimon Bar Yochai obligated to go make money in order to be able to give tzedakah? No. The Torah says you give a certain percent of what you have, but you don't have to go out and have in order to give. The same thing with pikuach nefashos. You're obligated to save if you can save, but you're not obligated to put yourself in a situation where you're able to save. Rav Moshe says, if one would be obligated to learn the information necessary to save people, then everyone would be required to be a doctor to save lives.
Or volunteer to Hatzalah.
Says or volunteer to Hatzalah. Is every Jew obligated to volunteer for Hatzalah? No, not at all. There's no chiyuv to learn how to save, to learn the ways to save people's life in order to do it. There's no chiyuv, because the Torah only obligates you to do what you can in the situation that you're in. But the Torah doesn't obligate you to expand your situation so that your situation allows you to save. And therefore, says the Igros Moshe, you're standing here right now. This guy, he's not surviving. Are you obligated to save him? Yeah, but I'm only obligated to do what I can. Am I obligated to perform an autopsy to be able to save him? No. Once I'm not obligated, I'm not allowed to. Once I'm not obligated, because since my obligation to save lives is only in the situation I'm in now, I can't save him. Oh, but you'll say, maybe I should be obligated to expand my horizons and perform an autopsy to be able to save people. Torah never places that type of obligation. The obligation of mitzvos is only in the situation I'm in now. And I was thinking, if this sounds very innovative, I saw once, I forgot to bring it in, I really should have brought it in. The Talmud Muvak of the Vilna Gaon was Rabbi Yisrael, one of them was Rabbi Yisrael Mishkolov. He was one of the first of the Talmidei Hagra to move to Eretz Yisrael. And in his Hakdama, he writes a biography about the Vilna Gaon. And he talks about how the Vilna Gaon knew all the chachmos in the world. He knew music, he knew algebra.
Math, of course.
And there's one thing his father did not let him learn. His father did not let him learn refuah.
Medicine.
Why? Because his father told him, once you learn medicine, you'll be obligated to save lives. So I never understood that. So then he should be obligated to learn medicine. If he could learn it, he should be obligated to learn it to be able to save lives. Yeah. What's his fault? I don't understand what his father accomplished. If his father felt that if the Vilna Gaon would become the expert in medicine, he would have to save lives, so then he should have told him to. Then what does it help for him not to learn it? Isn't he now obligated to learn it?
Equal power.
No, I'm not talking about that. This is the principle of Rav Moshe. You're only obligated to save a life in the situation you're in, but you're not obligated to learn, expand the situation in order to save lives. That's not your personal obligation.
What about teaching Torah?
What do you mean?
You're saving life of people to be machzur b'tshuva.
Definitely.
So this is okay.
Of course it's okay. No, but the question
is...
What
is the difference?
What do you mean?
Between teaching somebody Torah...
I mean, why am I shouldn't be obligated...
Also to teach somebody else Torah.
That's something you have.
Right now I know it.
You know that. You know how to
I know how to learn.
Yeah.
Here's a guy, he's spiritually dying, so I got to save him.
Yeah.
That's like a guy who knows how to swim. He can't say, I don't have to jump into the water to save. You know how to swim, so you got to save. So here, you know Torah. Your friend doesn't know it. You got to help him. But
because you know how to swim doesn't mean you know how to save somebody.
That's right.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
That's right.
No, this is not a. This is not a. Yeah, there's not a hashkafic discussion. This is a halachic discussion of what? What?
You're not allowed to join the army.
I didn't comment on the army.
Yes, you did.
No.
You're not allowed to save lives.
No, I didn't say you're not allowed to. It's a very noble thing. But you're not allowed to perform an autopsy to save a life. If it involves violating a prohibition, then you're not allowed to do it because it will save a life in the future.
So are you allowed to enter a medical school knowing that that's part of the curriculum and you will not become an ND because you will have to do...
Well, we said to do an autopsy on a guy is a separate discussion. Maybe we should discuss it next week. But if you're to enter a medical school where they're going to be doing autopsies on Jewish people, then of course not.
You can't do it.
Of course not.
Check into it and obviously...
Yeah, or a kohen. Let's say a kohen wants, right? What we're learning is you can't do an autopsy to save a life.
Yeah.
Could you become a Hatzalah member? Of course you could become a Hatzalah member. You're not, right? It's a very noble thing. But when you're learning, are you obligated to become a Hatzalah member to save a life? You're not obligated. Are you doing a wonderful thing? Sure, you're doing a wonderful thing. Can we say you're obligated because of the chiyuv of pikuach nefashos? No, we're not going to say that. But to say every Jewish life, kol hamatzah nefesh achas mitzvah kilu kiyam alei malei. But nevertheless, the halachic definition of pikuach nefashos, A, is if the person is sitting in front of you, and B, you're only obligated to save in a situation where you are able to do it right now. Let's read Rav Moshe inside. I don't want to hold anybody up, but...
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of mitzvah, wouldn't it involve something in the future, and study something that will help me be healthy in the future? And if that's true, then perhaps we could, then it could be v'ahavta l'orecha k'maycha. then we could say that.
Again, if you're able, let's say, if you're able to read a science book, to be able to save lives in the future, you're doing a very noble thing. But we're not going to call it pikuach nefashos. Sure. You want to exercise because you know.
How to be healthy. So I'm studying in the future to see how I should be healthy. I would think that it is.
Correct. But let me. Are you allowed to do it? Are you allowed to? Are you allowed to write on Shabbos about trying to figure out how to preserve your health better because you'll live longer that way? Pikuach nefashos. It's not because again the same thing. It's not called pikuach nefashos unless there's a clear and present situation. Is it noble? Is it good? Is it a mitzvah? Is it a wonderful thing? Yes. But it's not considered saving a life. Okay, let's see what Rav Moshe says. Look. In number 19. Hinei b'dvar l'nateach esameis l'rois shorish hacholi k'dei l'islamid sheherach hanoi de bihuda in tinyanach like yardes and reishuda masik l'isur k'shein chol b'machlik kazu l'fneim she'ef sheyado ich l'rapoisa yidei zeh shenidchu meizeh. Okay, you see the next line? It says v'ani moisef. See? On the 7th line, Va'ani Mosef. Rav Moshe said, I would like to add the following: Da'af mitzad hachshasha hayazech shash sharoi lidchais alav yisurin. Even if you want to say, not like the Noda B'Yehuda, that the eventual possibility of saving a life is a reason to push away yisurim, because that's considered like you have somebody in front of you. It still would not push off the prohibition of autopsies. Mishum lehislamed lerapos ein chiyav al ha'adam. There is no obligation to learn how to heal. Deloi matzinu sheyeh chiyav al kol adam sheyomad chachmas refuah k'dei lerapos hacholim sheyeshnam. Do we find anywhere in the Torah that there's an obligation to be a doctor to heal all the sick people? Why not? There's sick people right now. There will be sick people. Why are you not obligated to be a doctor to heal them? Why not? Why does the Torah not obligate a Jew to be a doctor? You'll say, oh, because maybe nobody will be sick. No, Rav Moshe says, come on. There's sick people. Look around. Go to the hospitals. It's full of sick people. So we should be obligated to learn how to heal them. The answer is Mishum Shachiv ala Adam Hurak Lahatzel Es Chaveroi B'ma Sheyachal. You are only obligated to help what you can. If you're already a doctor, then you're obligated to heal your sick friends. If you know how to swim, if you know how to swim and save a guy, then if you're a lifeguard, you have to save someone. Right? Anybody ever see any of the poskim say you're mechuyev to be a lifeguard? Is there a chiyuv to be a lifeguard? Because maybe you'll take a cruise and, chances are it'll probably capsize and, and you'll have to save everybody. No, there's no chiyuv. There's no chiyuv to learn how to swim. No, it's
a chiyuv. The father has to teach the son how to swim. It's a chiyuv.
But not life-saving.
It's a chiyuv.
It's not so pashut. Even though the Gemara in Kedushin says,
yes,
it's not brought down in Shulchan Aruch.
Clearly.
It's not brought down in Shulchan Aruch. But okay.
He said himself, only for himself. The Gemara is only talking about not life-saving, right?
But not life-saving.
It's not brought down in Shulchan Aruch. Could be because in those days everyone used to travel in boats, and nowadays it's not. Okay, but anyway, are you obligated to learn how to swim? No. You know what this is like? Here you have a guy, right? He's working, he's making $50,000 a year, and he's perfectly fine with that. So we say to him, no, you're obligated to go out and be investment banker to make $3 million a year, because you know how many people lives you could save if you'll be able to give more tzedakah? Yeah. Is this guy obligated to start making more money to give more tzedakah? Of course not. There's no chiyuv. The chiyuv ala adam hu rak al ha'ofen k'may shehu nimtza. Your obligation is on the matzah you're in now. Sheyasa mashe b'koychei lasos. And I'll bring you a raya, says Rav Moshe, from Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. The Harei Adarabah. Chazinan, we see Shemisha Terasim Nasei, somebody who his profession is his learning. They only made a living to be able to sustain themselves. And this is the highest madrega. So you say, why is this the highest madrega? They should be obligated to go and make a real living, to give a hefty sum to the tzedakahs. Avshim hayu oiskim b'mlachas harbe v'hayu mis'ashrim hayu chaylam lahatz nefasha shu chiyuv gam al misha terasim nasai elavade mishum dehachiyuv hu ala adam rak kefi ma shehu nimtza. You are obligated to do what you can in the situation you're in. You're not obligated to become wealthy. You're not obligated to change yourself from the situation you're in to be able to accomplish.
What does that mean, the situation that I'm in? What does that mean?
In other words, right now, I don't have this amount of money, so I don't have to give tzedakah. More tzedakah. Am I obligated to make more money to be able to give more tzedakah? No. Right now, let's say I'm giving $10,000 a year for tzedakah. If I make $1 million a year, I would have to give $100,000 to tzedakah. Am I obligated to get a new job to be able to give more tzedakah? No. So here you have a guy, Nebuch, he's not surviving. Or, you have the guy on the operating table, right? The doctors were unsuccessful in saving this guy's life. Now you want to do an autopsy to save some guy's life in the future. If I don't do the autopsy, I can't save that guy's life in the future. Am I obligated to save that guy's life? No, you know why? Because right now, if I don't do this autopsy, is there any way for me to save his life? No. So then I'm not obligated to save his life. But you'll tell me, so I should be obligated to do an autopsy? I'm not obligated to change the situation that I'm in to be able to expand my ability to help people. Okay. How do we pass in halacha l'maisa? So, we said last week that very often the last word on these issues is the Gesher HaChaim, Rabbi Michael Tukachinsky. And he learns halacha l'maisa like the Chassam Sofer. That under normal circumstances you cannot do an autopsy, but if you have in front of you two patients, and one of them you were unsuccessful with, and you want to do the autopsy on A to save B, you can do that. However, he says that this is very academic. Let's take a look on number 20 in Ois Gimel.
I thought you were going to bring down I don't know if it's in this tshuva or a different tshuva, Reb Moshe Feinstein.
Yeah, that's what we just saw.
That's right.
In number.
Different tshuva, then it must be a different tshuva, Reb Moshe Feinstein.
Reb Moshe says that the Rabbi Yehuda's idea was maybe saving a life in the future is not pikuach nefashos. Why? Because it's not clear and present. Rav Moshe says, even if it would be considered clear and present, you're not obligated to save someone who's in a clear and present danger if in the situation you're in, you can't do it.
What I was going to say was, he has a...
In other words,
it must be in a different tshuva, where he was asked about doing autopsies in Israel when they had that event, and he says he compares it to Pelegish Begiva, that it might be he thinks it might be permissible to cut up to cut limbs in order to demonstrate, for demonstration purposes, as a protest, as this is what an autopsy looks like, and not to have autopsies.
I'd be curious to see that. Maybe.
He didn't say it's permissible. He said it might be permissible.
Okay. Let's take a look in Bays, in number 20. Yesh roifim makilim la'atz on page 5. There are some doctors who are lenient, l'natech meis, kedei lehislamed, or l'lamed l'talmidim, l'limud, anatomy or physiology, right? So that's what they do in medical schools. Anatomy, physiology, right? The earlier sages, the later sages, they cried out against this. Rabbi Yehuda says this is absolutely forbidden. And it's empty, that which they say it's saving lives. Chada, number one, Shekvar Noda, Shein Shum Tayalas Maasis Yotzim Nevdikas Hames. Number one, he says they don't ever gain anything from doing these autopsies. That's the first time of the Nadav I didn't put on the sheet. But number two, the main reason is Sheinis to Hapikuach Nefashas Derech Shabbos Zel Rak Bizman Shekvar Nimtza. That's only if the danger is in front of you. Something fell on them. Asiyas refuah la'atzalas ha'chola shekvar chola v'darish refuazu aval hislamed to learn kedei ladas bizman sheizdamin lahem chola shekazeh loy matzinu b'koyin da heter. We don't find any heter about this because otherwise says the Nadav would be permitted to make medicine on Shabbos because ulai you'll have a sick person. And by the way, the Chassam Sofer added another reason. He says shlishis shahames harehu asr b'hana. You're not allowed to get hana from a mace. However, look in Gimel. The Gesher HaChaim comes out lahakel if in fact you have two people in front of you. Of a makom sheyeshnam shnei cholim b'choili achas v'yechem mehem mace. The doctors say by investigating the first patient you'll be able to save the second one. Some Sofer would seem to be matir. L'chayra Rav Moshe would say you're not allowed to. But the Gesher HaChaim Paskins, v'im ki hagayin Rav Yaakov Edlinger machmir, even though the Aruch LaNer says you're not allowed to, afi b'chai gavna, right? Even though the Aruch LaNer said you're not allowed to, what was his reason? Because asr l'hatzal atzma b'maman chaveroi, v'tamei shek'shem shel atzma b'maman chaveroi kachin l'hatzal nefesh achas b'kloiner shel acher. Says the Gesher HaChaim we could be soimech on the Chassam Sofer, that if you have two patients in front of you, to save the life of patient two, you could do the autopsy on one. However, says the Gesher HaChaim, this is all academic. Because if you know what goes on in the hospitals, he says it's a lot of bogus. They'll tell you, yeah, they need to do the autopsy to save this one's life. Very, very rarely patient A and patient B are lined up right in front of you, where patient A, they did the wrong thing and they want to know what to do with patient B, and they're just telling you that they need to know it because they don't understand the concept of nivel hames. Look what he says, Ulam kozeh k'sheyadu shechali achas l'shneim. This is talking about if they have the same sickness. Shani tuach l'meis olo lahavi tayalas ha'chol ha'chai. Uvi but in our times, sheroifim hamislamdim, nowadays, that the doctors who are learning, they don't understand the concept of the image of man, that man is created in God's image. You can't trust them. You can't believe them when they tell you this is necessary to know. Especially nowadays, you have doctors who just cut out a limb, for their own personal collection. As we know what happens, you can't trust the doctor. Even if the doctor says, we need to do autopsy on A to save B, you can't believe the doctor, and you can't do it. Okay? This is talking about Jewish bodies. The body of a guy, we'll have to stay tuned. We'll have to get to that. And we didn't finish the topic of cremation and halacha. We'll have to get to that.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.